So, this video is a bit of a random one. I've just gone ahead and watched a Rugby World Cup final which I had never seen before. It was the 1987 Rugby World Cup final between the All Blacks and France, the first ever Rugby World Cup. The final was played at Eden Park here in Auckland. I've seen highlights of this game before. My memory was pretty poor because I thought there was a particular try that was in this game that was still in 1987 but wasn't in this game. But yeah, I went and watched the game. I did film myself watching the game, so if you want to watch the game with me, I'll put a link to the video where you can watch it and a link to my video there, so check that one out. It's about an hour and a half, but yeah, if you want to get a summary of the game, I'll go through that now. To be honest, a lot of the notes that I wrote down during the game were just about how different the game is now compared to back in those days. I mean, just look at the scoreboard, 29 points to 9. How do you get 9 points from a try, a conversion, and a penalty? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Generally, if you want to get 9 points, you need to go drop goal and penalty combination. I don't think there's another way you can get there. But sure enough, 4 points for a try, 2 points for a conversion, 1 point for a penalty. Same with the All Blacks. 4 points for each try, 2 points for the conversion, 3 points for the penalties, which there were 4, and a drop goal also 3 points. So yeah, that's a bit different. They kicked off back in those days without doing a drop kick. They used to use a little mound of sand. Or if you're in England, you just used to put the ball on the ground, apparently, according to the commentators. So, loads of stuff that was different. To be fair, in terms of the actual game itself, the All Blacks were pretty dominant for like the first, and I don't know how long it was because there was no timer on the screen. I'm going to say 20 minutes, and I would have said the territory would have been at least All Blacks 80, France 20. Possession maybe not as drastic because the French did have a chance to get the ball out of their own 22 at times. Who was the fullback? Was it Blanco? Was kicking all kinds of meters to put the All Blacks backwards. Grant Fox was kicking like a legend, and he is a bit of a legend here in New Zealand in terms of his All Blacks abilities. With his touch finders, his goal kicking in this game, he missed a few kicks. He missed a pretty easy penalty and a couple of conversions, which were from the sideline. So his overall stats didn't look that good, but it was still pretty solid, especially with kicking for touch and whatnot. The All Blacks did blow a chance early where they had men over. One thing about this game, and you'll know it if you've seen my watching of the game, the scrums set literally within about 4 seconds of being called. Slow ones maybe 6, but between 4, definitely less than 10 seconds to set a scrum is ridiculous. Compared to nowadays where you're looking at least a minute for a scrum, and then if it gets reset, another minute. So yeah, that was very pleasing on the eye. Line-out jumpers did not jump back in those days, so you jumped, but no one could lift you. You could just jump off the ground. That made for it a bit difficult at times for some of the guys to secure the ball. The French guys had their halfback throwing the ball in at line-out time, and they were doing a pretty terrible job because, again, I didn't write down the stats. I couldn't find any stats that were relevant to that, but I would say the French line-out would have been operating at most probably 30-35%. The All Blacks were having a field day with the French line-out, and that was probably a large reason why they lost because they just kept putting themselves under pressure. The skills were still silky back in 1987. Offloads galore. Kerwin did a pass behind his back. Like, that stuff hasn't changed. If you think that's a modern thing, you probably need to watch some of that stuff. I was pleasantly surprised by some of the skill levels. Sure, there were still a lot of knock-ons. It was a bit wet. The pace of the game is pretty high compared to the stop-start nature of the game nowadays. These guys were amateurs. They weren't professional rugby players back in those days. So, yeah, it was still pretty impressive. They had some smart stuff, like the drop goal for the All Blacks. they got a free kick from a line-out, relatively good field position. So the All Blacks decide, instead of tapping and running or like doing an up and under, they quickly tapped it and just threw it to Grant Fox, who just popped the drop goal before the French guys could charge him down. That's smart, right? You don't see that stuff anymore. Is that still legal? I don't see anything wrong with it. You tap it, pass it to the next guy, and you could potentially even just tap it and drop kick it, couldn't you? I don't know, man. Nobody does that. Not from what I've seen, but they did it back in 1987. It was a set play, and the commentator knew it was coming as well. Michael Jones got a try. Again, there was the French. Like, they had too many errors, man. Too many handling errors. This one was a loose ball. French guy didn't pick it up on a kick through. Well, it was a kick through that was a charge down drop goal. But, yeah, Michael Jones went over for a try. They still had some silky moments at the French. Like, at one point, the All Blacks had a kick through, and the French... was that the All Blacks guy picked it up one-handed? It was Green. Craig Green picked it up one-handed and gave it to Gallagher. Grant Fox missed the penalty. Like I said, it was a bit of a sitter, using the little sandcastle. They didn't have a kicking tee. Using the sandcastle to build his little kicking tee, basically. Kirk scored a try. After putting in a great halftime, just before halftime, a great touch finder. And that's one of those moments where you know things are going the All Blacks' way. He puts in a box kick, and it looks like it's going to go over the French goal line. Maybe it's going to go dead. Before it gets to the flag on the corner, it takes a right angle turn and just goes out. So the French have got a line out. And again, their line out is terrible. So halftime's 9-0 to the All Blacks. Could have been more. Really could have been more. Second half, there's tries to Kirk. Michael Jones put in a nice offload before that one, and then it was Kirk putting in a little sniping run for the second one. He went through half the French team. Shelford got the ball from his being tackled, and then he passed it to Kerwin. Kerwin went over for a try. French kept fighting. They got a try right at the death, but it was immediately full time after they kicked the conversion, so too little, too late. So, yeah, if you've been searching for the last 30 years for the result of the 1987 World Cup final, there it was. French line-out was too poor. Hands were too poor. The All Blacks potentially could have won by more if they'd converted some of their chances from the outset. It was pretty scrappy. There's some stuff that's red card stuff nowadays that in 1987 was normal. Elbows. One of the French guys kicked Sean Fitzpatrick on the ground, just kicked him. Straight up kicked him right in front of the touch judge. Touch judge did call a penalty. So, yeah, he got penalised for it. But, yeah, man, it was brutal. Pretty brutal compared to some of the stuff nowadays. But then again, smaller guys, definitely not as big. Again, amateurs, not spending all day in the gym. Meant they were a bit more mobile in terms of being able to set a scrum within a few moments. But, yeah, if you're looking for a kind of a bit of rugby history, I can think of worse things to do with your time than watch the 1987 Rugby World Cup final. It's all where it started. It's a bit... again, it's an amateur sport back in those days, so it's a little bit quaint in some ways, but it's more professional than maybe I gave it credit for. In other ways, nobody went off injured from memory. Like they had substitutes, but none of them got on. One of the French locks went down. I forget if he got replaced or not, but either way, the guys, they still had the magic spray. And the guys just didn't go off when they were injured. They played the full 80 minutes. They didn't mess around in terms of stoppages a lot. They did get the odd stoppage when someone went down for a bit of the old magic spray. But, yeah, for the most part, those guys were some pretty tough cookies. So, yeah, it was a fun little watch. Obviously means more for you probably if you're a New Zealand fan. I don't know if you're a fan of another team whether you'd want to watch the 1987 Rugby World Cup final. I found it interesting just to see how much the game has changed, to see some of those big names back in those days. Philippe Salah, Serge Blanco, Grant Fox, Sean Fitzpatrick, all these guys in their heyday. Grant Fox was only 24. Joe Stanley, there were lots of guys. John Kerwin, yeah man, lots of guys back in their heyday. So we'll have to wait and see how long rugby is is not on. But if it continues to be not on, then I would say we can expect to see some more reviews of some old games. Maybe some of the ones that I have seen, maybe some of the ones that I haven't. Like, I don't think I've seen the 1991 final. I haven't watched the 1995 final since 1995. So that could be an interesting one to watch. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. If you are tempted, link down there. It's not my video. Don't know what the copyright status is of a 1987 video, but I watched someone's link to the 1987 World Cup final. It is American commentary, and there's a few moments where the video seems to cut out, like a few seconds, but I think it's, for the most part, pretty watchable game. But yeah, cheers guys, stay safe, wash your hands, take care, and yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.